Everyone wants to feel good and live life to the fullest. It's what drives so many behaviors in society and serves as a motivator for the choices we make in life. We go to the gym, we eat sugar, we browse the internet, listen to music, meditate, practice yoga, and the list goes on. But we hardly pay any attention to what goes on inside our bodies. The feel-good chemicals that are released in our brain when these external stimuli are being received. Yeah, I'm talking about dopamine. These neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, all have their place in the balanced functioning of our body that we often crave after them as our cortisol levels rise or as we become addicted to this feel-good high and need a quick fix. But then there are a few issues in this natural cycle. When we artificially overload our brains with stimulus resulting in a chemical release, over time the receptors that detect these chemicals desensitize, meaning that we become less sensitive to these feel-good chemicals, and we need more of a high or an experience to gain the same feeling of happiness using external stimulus like the hard drugs flooding the body system with dopamine release. So if anyone has ever called you an adrenaline junkie, or your mantra is too much or not enough, too much dopamine may just be a problem for you. So how do you know you've got into the rut of having excess dopamine that also gets you addicted to certain behavior? Watch this video to the end and you'll discover how fast you can get detoxed from it in the first place. And just before we get into it, don't forget to hit the red button below this video to subscribe and the bell button to get notified of new videos. Let's face it, you need dopamine in just the right amounts. Too little will leave you feeling unmotivated and joyless, and too much can wreak havoc on your life in many destructive ways. Dopamine is the reward neurotransmitter that tells your brain how much you want more of something. It's released when we take an action that helps ensure our survival, such as eating, drinking, having sex, or making money. All potentially addictive substances and behaviors, including caffeine, alcohol, sugar, drugs, shopping, video games, cell phone use, online porn, gambling, the pursuit of power, and thrill-seeking, flood the brain with unnaturally high levels of dopamine. But dopamine receptors are relatively fragile, and this bombardment can damage them or even stimulate them to death. So, to protect your dopamine receptors, a process known as downregulation occurs, with dopamine receptors becoming less responsive or even totally shutting down. But this means you will need more and more of your addictive behavior or substance to get a similar buzz from it. You're now stuck in a vicious cycle, in a rut of addiction and excess dopamine production. But there is a way to get out of this rut, and here it is. Too much dopamine is often a result of poor lifestyle choices, too much stress, too little sleep or diet, partaking of addictive substances or engaging in risky behaviors. While many of these disorders are treated with dopamine antagonists, prescription drugs that work by blocking dopamine receptors, detox is usually the first phase of treatment as the victim, slowly weaned off all addictive substances using natural dopamine antagonists that safely normalize or reduce high levels of dopamine in mentally healthy people, such as Bascopa, lemon essential oil, and vitamin B6. A growing but controversial trend is emerging from Silicon Valley called dopamine fasting, which has some merit. To combat the effects of too much dopamine caused by overstimulation, Silicon Valley biohackers are taking time off from electronic devices, drugs, and embracing silence for 24-hour periods. Dr. Cameron Sieper, the Silicon Valley psychologist who popularized dopamine fasting, recommends putting yourself on dopamine fast by avoiding technology use, drugs, and other activities that flood the brain with dopamine by taking a short trip or vacation. While there is little science to support that dopamine fasting lowers dopamine levels in the brain, there's no harm and possibility much to be gained by taking an occasional break from overstimulating substances and behaviors. So what are you waiting for? Start building new habits, reverse brain changes, and improve your quality of life twofold. And that's it for today. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, share, and subscribe.